What is depth of field in photography? Depth of field relates to the zone of focus of sharpness within your photograph. For example, if you use a wide aperture, you're going to get a shallow zone of focus. If you use a narrow aperture, then you're going to get a more longer zone of sharpness. So let's have a look at this diagram. Now we can see this diagram and we can see the photographer on the left. Now the red bar indicates the zone of sharpness which it is I'm talking about. So the photographer on the left is basically using a wide aperture. We know they're using a wide aperture due to the fact that the red bar represents a shallow zone of focus, and that is what a wide aperture does. It gives you a shallow zone of focus. Now if we have a look at the photographer in the middle, we can see that the red bar is longer. So that is an indication that this photographer is shooting with a more narrower aperture. We know this because the red bar, again, is a longer zone of focus. Now if we have a look at the photographer on the right hand side, then what we can see is the red bar is very long indeed. So that indicates to us that this photographer is shooting on a very narrow aperture, like let's say a f32. This is because the zone of focus, the red bar, is absolutely very long, and that means everything in front of the subject and practically everything behind the subject will be in very sharp focus, and that is basically how depth of field works. So let's have a look at depth of field in a photograph. Now have a look at this photograph. As you can see, this is a shallow depth of field. This aperture, I think it was f3.5. So as you can see, we can't really see much detail in the background, but we can in the foreground, because again, this is a shallow depth of field, which is a wide aperture. Now, if we use a narrow aperture like f32, then now you can see the entire background is just as in focus is what the entire foreground is in focus. And again, this is because we're using a narrow aperture. Remember, wide apertures give you shallow depth of fields. Narrow apertures give you long depth of fields. So there you go, guys. Now you have a better understanding of what depth of field is in photography. It's the zone of sharpness within the photograph.